Welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Kevin Delp.
And I'm Melissa Delp.
Today we're looking at Tudor from Academy Games. Tudor is a 2-to-4 player worker placement set collection game that plays in about an hour and a half. It's designed by Jan Kirshner and it's from Academy Games.
Players take on the roles of lords in the House of Tudor during the reign of King Henry VIII. You're going to try to gain prestige by placing your family members in positions of influence. At the end of the game, the player with the most points wins.
Let's look at the components. There's the main game board that's double-sided. There's player screens, cards, rings, and a ring stand, meeples, tokens, cloth bag. You can also buy an upgrade with minis that replaces the meeples. There's also a plastic insert to hold all the game components.
There's a lot of variability in the setup. You'll randomly place the influence and court tokens in the throne room. You'll also choose 2 scoring cards that determine how you earn points during the game and at the end. The blue scenario card you choose gives you options for actions and determines the number of rounds you'll play.
Before the first round, each player chooses 2 rings and receives a matching card for each. You can place the rings on any of the fingers on your player's screen hand, but where you place them will affect your options.
The color of your rings and cards also matter. They're going to influence where you can move in the throne room and which tokens you can collect.
There are 5 phases to each round: chamber assignment, chamber entry, lord placement, chamber actions, and end of the round.
During the chamber assignment phase, you'll look at the blue scenario card to see how many courtier figures you can place on the benches. So 2 in round 1, and then 1 in the following rounds. Each bench belongs to a specific chamber.
Then during the chamber entry, these figures move onto the chairs in each room. This might appear pointless at first, but it is extremely important because these figures will stay in the room from round to round unless they get pushed out in later rounds.
Then in turn order, everyone will place their lord at one of the tables. Lords are powerful because they can take both actions in a chamber. Courtiers take only one. And the lords determine which chambers activate. If a chamber is missing a lord, the courtiers in that room can't take either of the listed actions. Instead, they can take only the simple G or H actions.
During the chamber actions phase, players activate their courtiers and lords. On your turn, you can choose any of your meeples, slide it back, and take an action. Actions A, C, and E let you put your courtiers in the throne room and move them around. With A, you can move 1 space onto a token that matches one of your rings. C and E let you move multiple spaces by discarding cards that match the tokens in the spaces. You'll collect any square tiles you pass through or land on, and you'll get the circular token where you end your movement. Square tokens are replaced randomly on the empty spaces, but circular tokens are never replaced.
Action B lets you exchange rings, and you get a card matching the new ring color. With D, you can get 2 cards, but they have to match different rings you own. F lets you take any faction card. It doesn't have to match one of your rings.
G and H can be used in place of any of your regular actions, or if a lord isn't present at your table, then you must use either G or H. These are basically lesser versions of some of the other actions.
Your player screen shows 2 free actions you can take. Trade 2 cards for any card, and once per round you can discard 2 square tokens to move 1 space in any direction. This screen also describes how your ring placement can enhance your actions. If you have 3 rings here, then your A action is more powerful. You can now move 1 space in any direction regardless of your ring colors. Or, if you have 4 rings here, when you take the E action and move at least 3 spaces, you get to keep one of the cards you played.
You can get more rings by reaching the top of a throne room track. Your courtier stays in the top spot as an officer, and you can choose a ring of your choice. If there's another player already there, then you bump that person off and steal one of their rings.
Each game has different scoring goals. With this card, you'll immediately get points when you reach a top office spot. So here, I would get 8 points. Other cards give you endgame points based on the tiles you've collected, either sets of the same tiles or sets of different tiles.
Each combination of the goal and scenario cards affect your strategy. Now, we played with a starting setup a few times, and I was getting pretty confident in my strategy, but then we switched up those cards, and it really affected the pacing, and it was harder to get points.
I personally like that variability in the setup and in the goals. It keeps the game fresh. You're going to have the same mechanics and you're going to understand how the turns work, but then you get that sense of discovery and puzzling out the new strategies each time.
The game has a little bit of like a combativeness to it when you're stealing other people's rings, and it could mess up what you're trying to do, especially if someone takes the color ring that you're doing or even where it is on your hand, but it doesn't feel too mean.
I would agree with that. Although I was usually the one doing the stealing, so maybe I didn't feel it as badly. Basically, you just need to pay attention to what other people are doing, and if it looks like someone's coming up that track behind you, you might need to prepare for it. And then also think about how you are going to get up the different tracks. You could go after one of the short ones and get a ring really quickly, but you'll be vulnerable because it's a short track and someone might be able to quickly follow you and depose you.
The board can look a bit busy and intimidating at first with all the tokens on it. The art fits the theme, but the hands can be a little clunky if you keep bumping them. The ring stand is good and it's fun picking the rings throughout the game. I also want you to be aware that there are stickers that you have to place on the rings before your first play, so find someone with steady hands. The base game comes with wooden meeples, but we have the minis that work great. Whether you're using the meeples or the minis, you do have to be careful to keep track of which figures are on the seats and which have already been activated, especially if you're playing with the power that lets you switch the position of courtiers.
It looks like there's a lot going on, but once you learn the game, it's actually pretty easy and it has a good flow. The phases follow a logical structure, and even the actions are pretty simple once you learn all the iconography.
Our friends said that the mechanics worked well together and they were interesting. One said that he liked everything about the game, but he failed on executing his plan properly, so I think he wants to try again with some different strategies.
I think the combination of the physical rings, the cards, and the movement and how all that works together is really interesting. Now, I also like the different decisions I can make in the game. For instance, where should I put my lord? Do I put it in the chamber where I want to take both of those actions? Or do I need to put it in one where I have two courtiers and the other players might not put their lord there, and then I'll have worse actions to take?
Academy Games did something different than their normal historic war strategy games, and I think they nailed it for us. So if this sounds like something you would enjoy, then check out Tudor from Academy Games and be sure to subscribe to Tantrum House.